The thing about being a paramedic is you learn to spot the worst outcomes before they happen. Not just in patients, in marriages, friendships, dreams. You develop this sixth sense for when something's about to flatline. So when my wife Lana started leaving her phone face down during dinner, I knew our 12-year marriage was coding. My name's Caleb Norton, and I've been running emergency calls in Boston for 18 years. I've seen every kind of human wreckage you can imagine, but nothing prepared me for watching my own life implode in slow motion. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. It started with the little things. Lana, a freelance photographer who specialized in artsy black and white portraits, suddenly became obsessed with creative weekends that required her to disappear for days. She'd return with vague stories about networking events and gallery openings, her camera gear suspiciously clean for someone who'd supposedly been working. Some people actually care about my work, she'd snap when I asked about her trips. Not everyone's content saving lives for $42,000 a year. The dig stung because it was calculated. Lana knew exactly how to twist the knife. She'd married the uniform, not the man wearing it. Back then, she thought dating a paramedic was romantic. All that drama, the adrenaline, the hero complex she could show off to her artsy friends. Now, apparently, I was just another blue-collar disappointment. My partner Reggie noticed the change first. "Your wife's been texting you for 20 minutes and you haven't even looked at your phone," he said as we finished restocking our ambulance after a cardiac arrest call. That's not the Caleb I know. I glanced at my phone. 7 messages from Lana, all variations of, "Where are you?" and "Call me now." Nothing about how my day was going or whether the elderly man we just failed to revive had a family waiting at the hospital. "She's going through something," I told Reggie, which was paramedic code for "I don't want to talk about it." But Reggie had been my partner for 8 years. He knew when I was lying to myself. "Brother, you've got that look people get right before they make really bad decisions. Whatever's happening at home, don't let it mess with your head out here." He was right to worry. The job demands complete focus. One distracted moment and someone passes. But Lana's behavior was becoming impossible to ignore. The mysterious phone calls that ended abruptly when I walked into a room. The new lingerie that never seemed intended for me. The way she'd started dressing up for her solo photo shoots, like she was going on dates. Mrs. Geller, our 70-year-old neighbor who spent most of her day monitoring the building's comings and goings from her window, provided the confirmation I'd been dreading. "That tall man was here again last night," she mentioned casually while we waited for the elevator. "Left around midnight. Seemed familiar, but I couldn't place him." My stomach dropped. "What tall man?" "The one who's been visiting your wife, thought you knew." She studied my face with the sharp eyes of someone who'd survived 8 decades by paying attention. Oh dear, I've said too much. That evening, I confronted Lana directly. She was editing photos on her laptop, surrounded by prints of moody architectural shots that looked expensive and important. "Mrs. Geller mentioned you've been having visitors." Lana didn't look up from her screen. "Mrs. Geller needs to mind her own business. So does my wife." She finally turned to face me, and I saw something cold in her expression that I'd never seen before. "What exactly are you accusing me of, Caleb?" "I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm asking you to be honest with me." "Honest?" She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You want honesty? Fine. I'm suffocating here. This apartment, this life, this routine of pretending I'm happy being married to someone who thinks saving strangers is more important than building a real future." The accusation hit like a physical blow. "Saving strangers is my job, Lana. It's how I pay for this apartment and your camera equipment and those creative weekends you've been taking. Don't you dare make this about money." Her voice rose to a level that probably had Mrs. Geller pressing her ear to the wall. "This is about you being content with mediocrity while I'm trying to build something meaningful." With your mysterious midnight visitor? Her face flushed, confirming what I already suspected. His name is Miles Trent. He's helping me with a project. Miles Trent. The name hit me like ice water. Lana's ex-boyfriend from college, the one she'd described as charismatic but unreliable. The failed entrepreneur who'd burned through 3 startups and twice as many relationships. The man she'd claimed to have no contact with for over a decade. Miles Trent, I repeated. The same Miles Trent you dated before me? The one you said was a pathological liar and a narcissist? People change, Caleb. Some people grow and evolve instead of staying stuck in the same hopeless job for 20 years. The conversation ended there because my pager went off, chest pains on Beacon Hill. As I grabbed my keys, Lana called after me. Maybe when you get back, we can have an adult conversation about what we both really want. But I already knew what she wanted. And more importantly, I was starting to understand what I wanted too. The next morning, everything changed. I was drinking coffee and scrolling through our bank statements when my phone buzzed with a text from Lana. I need $5,000 immediately. If you say no, we're done. No explanation. No please. Just an ultimatum delivered like a ransom demand. I stared at the message for a long moment, feeling something cold and calculating settle in my chest. Then I typed back, "Ask your ex." Within minutes, my phone was ringing. I let it go to voicemail, then I called the police. Detective Ray Morales had the kind of weathered face that suggested he'd seen every variety of human stupidity multiple times. He listened to my story without interruption, occasionally making notes in a small pad that looked like it had survived several decades of similar conversations. "So, your wife's ex-boyfriend is back in the picture, and now she's demanding money," he summarized. "You think they're running some kind of scam?" "I think they're running something," I said. "The timing's too convenient. Miles shows up after 10 years, suddenly Lana needs $5,000, and she's threatening to leave if I don't pay up immediately. Could be coincidence. Could be. But I've been a paramedic for 18 years, detective. I've learned to trust my instincts when something doesn't look right." Morales nodded approvingly. "What do you want to do about it?" "I want to find out what they're really up to, and I want to protect myself legally." "Smart man. Let me introduce you to Officer Tessa Lin. She handles financial crimes." Officer Lin was younger than I'd expected, maybe late 20s, with sharp eyes and the kind of focused intensity that suggested she took her job seriously. She listened to my story, asked pointed questions about our joint accounts and Lana's recent behavior, then gave me advice that probably saved my financial life. "Transfer your money to a personal account immediately," she said. "Document everything: texts, emails, bank statements. If they're planning to clean you out, don't make it easy." I followed her instructions that afternoon. While Lana was at another mysterious photo shoot, I moved our savings to an account she couldn't access and changed the passwords on everything. Then I did something that felt like a violation, but turned out to be the smartest decision I'd made in months. I checked Lana's tablet. She'd left it on the kitchen counter, still logged into her cloud account. The same account that synced with her phone. The same account that contained 3 months of text messages between her and Miles Trent. What I found made me freeze. They weren't just having an affair. They were running a con game, using something called the Save the Arts Foundation to solicit donations from wealthy art collectors. Miles had created fake credentials, a professional website, and a compelling story about supporting struggling local artists. Lana was providing the artistic credibility and the photography for their marketing materials. But the most damning evidence was in their private messages. Miles: "How much can you get from the paramedic?" Lana: "Working on it. He's suspicious, but I can push him for at least $5,000. Miles: "Perfect. That'll cover the venue deposit for the fundraiser. After that, we're golden." Lana: "I still feel weird about this." Miles: "You want to spend the rest of your life married to Mr. Emergency Exit? This is our chance to build something real." There were dozens of messages like this, going back 3 months. They'd planned everything. The affair, the money grab, even Lana's escalating hostility toward me. It was all designed to manipulate me into funding their scam. But the message that really got to me was from Lana to her best friend Cass. Caleb's such a predictable hero type. He'll pay up because he can't stand the thought of being the bad guy. Poor bastard probably thinks he can save our marriage if he just tries hard enough. I screenshot everything and sent it to Officer Lin. Then I called a divorce attorney. Then I changed the locks. Lana came home around 9 p.m., struggled with her key for several minutes, then started pounding on the door. "Caleb! Open this door right now!" I opened it but kept the chain lock engaged. "What can I do for you, Lana?" "What do you mean, what can you do for me? I live here." "Actually, you don't. Not anymore. I filed for divorce this afternoon. You'll be served with papers tomorrow." Her face went through several expressions: confusion, anger, fear, then back to anger. "You can't just lock me out of my own home." "It's my home. My name's on the lease. You're welcome to collect your things, but you'll need to make an appointment." "This is about the money, isn't it? Fine. I don't need your $5,000. Miles and I can manage without you." "I'm sure you can. I'm also sure Detective Morales will be very interested in hearing about how you plan to manage." The color drained from her face. "What are you talking about?" "Save the Arts Foundation. Ring any bells?" She tried to push past me, but I held the door firm. "You went through my private messages?" "Your messages synced to the tablet you left on my kitchen counter. The kitchen counter in my apartment that you don't live in anymore." "You bastard. You have no idea what you're doing." "Actually, I think I do. I'm stopping my wife and her ex-boyfriend from running a charity scam using my money as seed capital. Seems pretty straightforward." Lana's phone rang. She glanced at it, and I saw Miles's name on the screen. "I have to take this." "Take it somewhere else. You're trespassing." She answered the phone as she walked away, but I could hear her voice echoing in the stairwell. "He knows everything. We need to talk." The next morning, Detective Morales called to tell me they'd executed a search warrant on Lana's photography studio. What they found confirmed everything I'd suspected and several things I hadn't. The Save the Arts Foundation was just the latest in a series of cons Miles had been running for the past 2 years. He'd previously operated fake charities for veterans, animal rescue, and children's literacy. Each time he'd find a new accomplice, usually a woman he was sleeping with, to provide legitimacy and help with the setup. "Your wife might not have known about his history," Morales told me, "but she definitely knew what they were doing was illegal. We found detailed records of their donations, their expenses, and their plans to skip town with whatever they collected." "How much money are we talking about?" They'd already collected about $15,000 from the art community. The fundraiser they were planning was supposed to be the big score. They were projecting another $50,000 to $75,000. I felt sick. Not just because of the money, but because of how thoroughly I'd been played. Every fight, every cruel comment, every moment of manufactured distance had been designed to soften me up for the final con. But the sick feeling was quickly replaced by something else, a cold, calculating anger that I'd never experienced before. "Detective," I said, "what happens next?" "We build a case. We'll need you to testify about the money demand, the timeline, anything else you observed. With the evidence we found and your testimony, we should be able to make charges stick." "What kind of charges?" "Wire fraud, conspiracy, theft by deception. Miles is looking at serious time. Your wife depends on how cooperative she is." After I hung up, I sat in my empty apartment and thought about cooperation, about the 12 years I'd spent trying to be a good husband to someone who'd been planning to betray me, about all the times I'd rushed home from emergency calls to check on her, worried about her safety and happiness while she was plotting to destroy my financial future. Then I thought about revenge, not the kind of revenge that lands you in jail or makes you the bad guy in your own story. The kind of revenge that uses the truth as a weapon and lets natural consequences do the heavy lifting. I picked up my phone and started making calls. The first call I made was to Reggie. "I need a favor, and it's going to sound crazy. Brother, after 18 years of running calls together, I'm pretty sure nothing you say will sound crazy. What do you need?" "I need you to help me destroy my wife's life, legally and completely." There was a pause. "Okay, that's a little crazy, but I'm listening." I explained everything: the affair, the scam, the divorce, the police investigation. Reggie listened without interruption, occasionally making small sounds of disgust. "So what's the favor?" he asked when I finished. "Miles and Lana are throwing their big fundraiser tomorrow night at the Meridian Gallery. It's their final score before the police shut them down. I want to be there when it happens." "You want to watch them get arrested?" "I want to make sure everyone in Boston's art community sees exactly who they've been dealing with." Reggie was quiet for a moment. "You sure about this, Caleb? Revenge has a way of eating people alive." "This isn't revenge, Reg. This is justice with an audience." The Meridian Gallery was in the trendy part of downtown, the kind of place where people paid $20 for artisanal cocktails and discussed the emotional resonance of abstract paintings. I'd been there exactly once for one of Lana's group shows and spent the entire evening feeling like I was wearing a sign that said, "Blue-collar intruder." Tonight felt different. Tonight, I belonged here more than anyone else in the room. I arrived early and positioned myself near the back, close enough to see everything but far enough away to avoid immediate recognition. The gallery was packed with the usual crowd: wealthy collectors, gallery owners, artists, and the kind of people who attended charity events more for the social networking than the actual charity. Lana looked stunning. She was wearing a black dress I'd never seen before, probably purchased with money from their advance donations. Her hair was styled in an elegant updo, and she moved through the crowd with the confidence of someone who believed she was about to pull off the perfect crime. Miles worked the room like a politician, shaking hands and making small talk with potential donors. He was exactly as I remembered from the old photos Lana used to keep: tall, handsome in an artificial way, with the kind of practiced charm that made people want to trust him. They'd set up an impressive display: professional photography showcasing struggling local artists, detailed financial projections for their programs, testimonials from supposed beneficiaries. If I hadn't known it was all fake, I might have been impressed. The presentation began at 8 p.m. Miles took the microphone and launched into a passionate speech about the importance of supporting emerging artists in an increasingly commercialized world. He was good, really good. He had the crowd nodding along, reaching for their checkbooks. "Art isn't just decoration," he said, his voice carrying perfectly through the gallery's sound system. "It's the soul of our community. When we support local artists, we're investing in the cultural future of Boston." Lana stood beside him, radiating pride and artistic integrity. Several people in the crowd were already writing checks. That's when Detective Morales and Officer Lin walked through the front door, followed by 4 uniformed officers. The change in atmosphere was immediate and electric. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. People turned to stare. Miles, still holding the microphone, looked like he'd been punched in the stomach. "Miles Trent and Lana Norton," Detective Morales announced, his voice carrying easily through the suddenly quiet gallery. "You're under arrest for wire fraud and conspiracy to commit theft." What happened next was beautiful chaos. Miles dropped the microphone and bolted toward the back exit, pushing through the crowd like a man on fire. But I was already there, blocking his path. "Going somewhere, Miles?" He recognized me immediately. "You snake. You destroyed everything." "No, Miles. You destroyed everything. I just turned on the lights." He tried to push past me, but 18 years of lifting patients and medical equipment had kept me in decent shape. I grabbed his arm and spun him back toward the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen," I called out, loud enough for everyone to hear, Let me introduce you to Miles Trent, professional con artist. The Save the Arts Foundation is fake. The struggling artists are fake. The only thing real here tonight is the money he was planning to steal from you." Miles swung at me, but it was a wild, desperate punch that I easily avoided. He stumbled, fell into a display of Lana's photographs, and brought the whole thing crashing down. The crowd pressed closer, phones out, recording everything. Miles scrambled to his feet, his expensive suit torn and dirty, his carefully styled hair disheveled. "This is a setup," he shouted. "This man is trying to frame me because I'm sleeping with his wife." The admission sent a ripple of shocked murmurs through the crowd. Several people actually gasped. "Actually," I said, pulling out my phone and opening the screenshots I'd prepared, "this is a con game. Would anyone like to see the text messages where Miles and Lana planned this entire scam?" I started reading their messages aloud, my voice carrying clearly through the gallery. "How much can you get from the paramedic? Working on it. He's suspicious, but I can push him for at least $5,000. That'll cover the venue deposit for the fundraiser." The crowd's mood shifted from shocked to angry. These were people who'd been prepared to donate thousands of dollars to what they thought was a legitimate cause. People who cared about art and community and had been manipulated by professionals. "You bastard," someone called out. "I already wrote you a check." "I donated $500 last week," another voice added. "I want my money back." Miles looked around desperately, but there was nowhere to run. The police had blocked all the exits, and the crowd had formed a hostile circle around him. Meanwhile, Lana was having her own breakdown near the front of the gallery. She'd been trying to explain herself to Officer Lin when someone in the crowd recognized her. "That's his wife," a woman shouted. "She's been lying to us for months." "I trusted you," another voice called out. "You photographed my daughter's wedding." Lana started crying, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of frustration and rage at being caught. "This is all his fault," she screamed, pointing at Miles. "He convinced me to do this. I never wanted to hurt anyone." Miles spun around to face her. "Are you kidding me? This was your idea. You're the one who said we should target the art community." And there it was, the moment when honor among thieves collapsed completely. They turned on each other in front of 50 witnesses, each trying to minimize their own guilt by maximizing their partners. The police let it continue for several minutes, probably because it was better than any confession they could have extracted in an interview room. Finally, Detective Morales stepped forward. "Enough. You're both under arrest. You have the right to remain silent, and I strongly suggest you exercise that right." As they led Miles away in handcuffs, he caught sight of me one more time. "This isn't over, you bastard." "Actually," I replied, "it is." Lana was crying harder now, mascara running down her cheeks, her elegant updo falling apart. As Officer Lin guided her toward the door, she looked directly at me with pure hatred. "I hope you're happy," she said. "You've destroyed both our lives." "No, Lana, you destroyed your own life. I just refused to let you destroy mine too." After they were gone, the crowd slowly began to disperse. Several people approached me to apologize for what I'd been through and to thank me for exposing the scam before they'd lost more money. But the best moment came when Ellie Santos, a reporter for the Boston Herald who'd been covering the event, asked me for an interview. "Mr. Norton, can you tell our readers how you discovered your wife's involvement in this fraud?" I looked directly into her camera and smiled. Sometimes the best way to save a life is to let someone else's lies eliminate them. The story ran on the front page the next morning, complete with photos of Miles and Lana being led away in handcuffs and quotes from the donors who'd been scammed. The headline read, "Paramedic exposes wife's art charity scam." But that was just the beginning. The newspaper story was like dropping a match into gasoline. Within hours, my phone was ringing with calls from reporters, lawyers, and people who claimed they'd also been victimized by Miles in previous scams. The story went viral on social media, with videos of the arrest and Miles's public breakdown being shared thousands of times. But the real fallout was just beginning. Cass, Lana's best friend and accomplice in the emotional manipulation campaign, called me at 6 in the morning, screaming, "You destroyed her life! She's in jail because of you!" She's in jail because she committed fraud, Cass. And before you get too righteous, you might want to know that the police are very interested in your text messages encouraging her to take Caleb for everything he's worth. The line went quiet. What are you talking about? Lana's phone backed up to her tablet. All your conversations about what a predictable hero type I am and how she should make him pay are now evidence in a federal fraud case. I was being supportive. I didn't know about the charity thing. Maybe not. But you knew about the affair, and you knew she was planning to take my money. That makes you an accessory to theft by deception. Cass hung up without another word. An hour later, she called back. What do you want from me? Nothing, Cass. I want you to disappear from my life completely. Don't call me, don't contact me, don't even mention my name to anyone else. If you do that, I'll consider not pressing charges for your role in the conspiracy. This is blackmail. No, this is consequences. You helped my wife plan to destroy my life. Now you get to live with the results. She hung up again, but this time she didn't call back. The next call was more interesting. It came from someone calling himself Roach, apparently Miles's tech guy and partner in his previous cons. You really screwed him over, Roach said, without preamble. He screwed himself over. I just documented it. Maybe. But you should know he's not done with you. He made bail this morning, and he's planning to skip town tonight. Probably heading to Miami, where he's got another identity set up. Why are you telling me this? Because the bastard stiffed me on my cut from the last job, promised me $5,000 and paid me $500. I figure if he's going down, he might as well go down hard. What do you want from me? Nothing. Just thought you should know he's staying at the Motel 6 on Route 1, room 237. He's got about $20,000 in cash from various cons, and he's planning to be gone by midnight. The line went silent. I called Detective Morales immediately and gave him the information. Then I called Reggie. I need another favor. Jesus, Caleb, what now? Miles is planning to run. I want to make sure he doesn't get away. Brother, let the police handle it. You've done enough. The police are understaffed and overworked. What if they don't get there in time? What if he slips away and starts this whole thing over again in another city? Reggie sighed. What do you need me to do? An hour later, we were parked across from the Motel 6, watching room 237. Reggie had brought coffee and sandwiches like we were on a stakeout in a cop movie. You sure about this? He asked for the 10th time. I'm sure. Because this feels like the kind of thing that could go very wrong very quickly. Reg, I've spent 18 years responding to emergencies. I know the difference between a calculated risk and a stupid mistake. And which one is this? We'll find out. At 11:30, Miles emerged from his room carrying a large duffel bag and a suitcase. He looked around nervously, then started loading his car, a rental sedan that probably wasn't registered in his real name. I waited until he was focused on arranging his luggage, then got out of our car and walked across the parking lot. Going somewhere, Miles? He spun around, nearly dropping his bag. What the hell are you doing here? Making sure justice gets served. You've already destroyed my life. What more do you want? I want you to face the consequences of your actions instead of running away to victimize more people. Miles glanced around the empty parking lot, probably calculating his chances of getting past me to his car. You can't stop me from leaving. Actually, I can. I pulled out a small knife, the kind paramedics carry for cutting seatbelts and clothing, and calmly slashed both of his front tires. You snake! Miles lunged at me, but I was ready for him. 18 years of lifting patients had kept me strong, and 18 years of dealing with violent, intoxicated people had taught me how to handle myself in a fight. I grabbed Miles by the shirt, spun him around, and slammed him against his disabled car. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, keeping my voice calm and level. "You're going to sit down on the curb and wait for the police to arrive. If you try to run, I'll tackle you and hold you until they get here. If you try to fight me, I'll defend myself and you'll end up unconscious on the asphalt." "This is assault. I'll have you arrested." "Go ahead. Call the police. Tell them a paramedic prevented a suspected felon from fleeing the jurisdiction. I'm sure they'll be very sympathetic." Miles looked at his slashed tires, then at me, then at the duffel bag full of stolen money. His shoulders sagged in defeat. "How did you find me?" "Your friend Roach got tired of being cheated. Turns out loyalty is a two-way street." "Roach sold me out?" "You sold yourself out the moment you decided to steal from people who trusted you." Detective Morales arrived 10 minutes later with 2 patrol cars and Officer Lin. They found Miles sitting on the curb exactly where I'd left him, staring at his disabled rental car like he couldn't believe his escape plan had fallen apart. "Mr. Norton," Detective Morales said as they handcuffed Miles for the second time in 2 days. "I thought I told you to let us handle this." "You did, but I was in the neighborhood and noticed Mr. Trent seemed to be having car trouble." Morales looked at the slashed tires, then at the knife in my hand, then back at me. "Car trouble. It's a dangerous world out there, Detective. You never know when you might run over something sharp." He almost smiled. "We'll need you to come in tomorrow and give a statement about what happened here." "Of course. I'm always happy to cooperate with law enforcement." As they led Miles away for the second time, he turned back to look at me with pure hatred. "This isn't over," he said. "Yes, it is," I replied. "You just don't know it yet." But I knew it wasn't really over. Not until Lana faced the same kind of public humiliation and total defeat that Miles had just experienced. That would require a different kind of plan. The next morning brought news that made my coffee taste like victory. The Boston Herald ran a follow-up story about Miles's attempted escape, complete with details about the slashed tires and the duffel bag full of cash. The headline read, "Charity Scammer Caught Fleeing with Stolen Money," but the real prize was buried in the third paragraph. Lana Norton, the photographer and co-conspirator in the Save the Arts Foundation fraud, remains in custody pending arraignment. Sources close to the investigation say she has been uncooperative with police and continues to blame her estranged husband for the exposure of their scheme. Uncooperative. Perfect. My phone rang around noon. It was Marcus Webb, a reporter from Channel 7 News. "Mr. Norton, we'd like to interview you about your role in exposing this fraud. Would you be available this afternoon?" "I'd be happy to tell my story." "Great. Can you be at our studio at 3 o'clock? "Actually, I was wondering if we could do it somewhere more meaningful, maybe at the gallery where they held their fake fundraiser." "Even better. We'll meet you there at 3. I spent the next 2 hours preparing for what I knew would be the most important performance of my life. Not because I planned to lie or exaggerate, but because I wanted to make sure the truth was presented in the most devastating way possible. The Meridian Gallery looked different in daylight, smaller somehow, and less impressive. The owner, a thin man in his 50s named David Chen, was there to let us in. "I still can't believe this happened in my gallery," he said as the news crew set up their equipment. "I've known Lana for 3 years. She seemed so genuine." "That's what made her good at it," I replied. "The best con artists are the ones who make you want to trust them." The interview began with basic questions about how I'd discovered the fraud. I walked the reporter through the timeline, Lana's suspicious behavior, the mysterious visitor, the demand for money, the text messages that revealed the whole scheme. "What was your reaction when you realized your wife was having an affair and planning to steal your money?" "Honestly, I wasn't surprised about the affair. I'd suspected that for weeks. But the fraud scheme shocked me. I married someone I thought had integrity, even if she didn't love me anymore. Finding out she was willing to steal from people who trusted her, That changed everything. How did you feel watching them get arrested? Relieved. These people weren't just stealing money. They were stealing from a community that cares about art and culture. They were exploiting the generosity of people who wanted to make a difference. The reporter nodded sympathetically. What's next for you? I'm going to rebuild my life. I'm going to focus on my job, which is saving lives instead of destroying them. And I'm going to make sure that everyone in Boston knows exactly who Lana Norton and Miles Trent really are. That's when Lana walked in. She'd made bail that morning and apparently decided that confronting me on live television was a good idea. Her hair was disheveled, her clothes wrinkled, and she had the wild-eyed look of someone who'd spent 2 nights in jail and wasn't handling it well. "Turn those cameras off," she screamed at the news crew. "This is harassment." The reporter, sensing a career-making moment, signaled for his cameraman to keep rolling. "Mrs. Norton," he said, "would you like to respond to your husband's allegations?" "He's not my husband anymore, and everything he's saying is lies." She turned to face me directly, her voice rising to a near shriek. "You destroyed my life! You sabotaged everything I worked for!" "I exposed a criminal conspiracy, Lana. There's a difference." "Criminal conspiracy? We were trying to help artists." "You were trying to steal $75,000 from people who trusted you. That money was going to good causes. 20% was going to good causes. The rest was going into your pockets so you and Miles could start a new life together." The reporter stepped between us, clearly thrilled with the drama unfolding on live television. "Mrs. Norton, are you admitting that you and Mr. Trent were planning to keep most of the donated money?" Lana realized she'd walked into a trap. The administrative costs were higher than expected." 80% administrative costs? I asked. For a charity that existed only on paper? "You don't understand the art world," she screamed. "You never understood anything about my work or my dreams. I understood that you were married to me while you were sleeping with your ex-boyfriend and planning to steal my money to fund your dreams." The cameraman zoomed in on Lana's face as the full reality of her situation hit her. She was confessing to fraud on live television, in front of the same community she'd been trying to con. "This is entrapment," she said weakly. "No," I replied. "This is consequences." Lana looked around the gallery, at the cameras, at the reporter, at David Chen, who was shaking his head in disgust. Then she looked back at me with an expression of pure hatred. "I hope you're happy," she said. "You've destroyed both our lives." "I've destroyed one life, Lana. Yours. Mine is just getting started." She tried to storm out dramatically, but David Chen stepped in front of the door. "I don't think so," he said quietly. "You owe me $3,000 for the gallery rental and the damage from your boyfriend's tantrum. You're not leaving until we discuss payment." "I don't have $3,000. "Then I guess you'll be hearing from my lawyer." The interview ended with Lana trapped in the gallery, surrounded by cameras, facing civil lawsuits on top of her criminal charges. The reporter thanked me for my time and promised the story would run on the evening news. But I wasn't done yet. While Lana was arguing with David Chen about money she didn't have, I made a phone call to the company that had leased her photography equipment. It turned out the lease was in my name, with my credit as collateral. "I'd like to report the equipment as stolen," I told them. "My wife took it when she moved out without permission, and she's now using it in the commission of fraud." Within an hour, a repo team was at Lana's studio, reclaiming thousands of dollars worth of cameras, lights, and editing equipment. Her landlord, who'd seen the news coverage, was there too, with an eviction notice. By 6 o'clock that evening, Lana Norton had lost her home, her business, her equipment, her reputation, and most of her friends. The news story ran as the lead segment, complete with footage of her meltdown and her inadvertent confession to fraud. But I still wasn't finished. The final act began 3 days later, when Lana made one last desperate attempt to salvage something from the wreckage of her life. I was leaving the hospital after dropping off a patient when she appeared in the parking lot, blocking my path to the ambulance. She looked terrible, Unwashed hair, wrinkled clothes, the hollow-eyed appearance of someone who hadn't slept in days. "We need to talk," she said. "No, we don't. We need to never see each other again. I have information about you that could destroy your career, things I never told the police." Reggie, who'd been restocking our supplies, looked up with interest. "This should be good." "Stay out of this," Lana snapped at him, then turned back to me. "I know about the prescription drugs you've been taking from the ambulance. I know about the times you've been drinking on duty. I know about the patient you let fade because you were too slow to respond." I stared at her for a moment, genuinely impressed by the audacity of her lies. "Is that your play, Lana? Make up stories about me to try to save yourself?" "They're not stories. I have evidence." "No, you don't. Because none of it happened. Prove it." I pulled out my phone and opened the recording app. "Okay, let's do this properly. Repeat your allegations for the record." "What are you doing?" "I'm recording your attempt to extort me with false accusations. It's another felony, by the way. Conspiracy, fraud, and now extortion. You're really going for the trifecta." Lana's face went pale as she realized she'd walked into another trap. "Turn that off." Too late. I looked directly into the phone's camera. "This is Caleb Norton, badge number 4471, recording a conversation with my estranged wife Lana Norton on October 15th at approximately 4:30 p.m. in the parking lot of Boston General Hospital. Mrs. Norton just accused me of stealing prescription drugs, drinking on duty, and letting a patient fade through negligence. For the record, all of these allegations are completely false, and I believe she's making them in an attempt to coerce me into dropping my cooperation with the ongoing fraud investigation." "Stop it!" Lana lunged for the phone, but I held it out of reach. "Mrs. Norton is now attempting to destroy evidence of her extortion attempt," I continued. "I'm going to end this recording and immediately turn it over to Detective Morales and my supervisor." I stopped the recording and looked at Lana with something approaching pity. "You just can't stop making it worse for yourself, can you? You bastard! You've taken everything from me." "I haven't taken anything, Lana. You threw it all away for a con man who's probably going to testify against you to reduce his own sentence." Miles would never... Miles already did. He signed a cooperation agreement yesterday. He's blaming everything on you in exchange for a reduced sentence. Didn't your lawyer tell you?" The last bit of color drained from her face. "You're lying." "Call your lawyer." She fumbled for her phone with shaking hands, dialed a number, and had a brief, whispered conversation. When she hung up, she looked like someone who'd just been diagnosed with a terminal illness. "He sold me out," she said quietly. "Of course he did. He's a career criminal, Lana. Did you really think he cared about you?" "We were in love. You were a mark, a useful idiot with a clean record and a trusting husband he could exploit." Lana started crying, not the angry tears from the gallery, but the broken sobs of someone who finally understood how completely she'd been played. "What am I going to do?" she asked. "You're going to face the consequences of your choices. You're going to plead guilty, serve your time, and hopefully learn something from this experience. I can't go to prison. You should have thought of that before you decided to become a criminal." She looked up at me with desperate eyes. "Can't you help me? For old time's sake?" "Help you?" "Lana, you tried to destroy my life. You stole my money, cheated on me with your ex-boyfriend, and then tried to extort me with false accusations. Why would I help you? Because you're a good person. Because you save people." I considered her words for a moment. "You're right. I do save people. But I can't save someone who keeps pulling their own plug." Lana stared at me, finally understanding that there would be no rescue, no last-minute reprieve, no happy ending where everything worked out. "I hate you," she said. "I know, but I don't care anymore." She turned and walked away, her shoulders shaking with sobs. I watched her go, feeling nothing but relief that this chapter of my life was finally closing. Reggie, who'd been listening to the entire conversation, shook his head in amazement. Brother, that was cold. That was justice. Same thing? Sometimes. 3 months later, Lana pleaded guilty to conspiracy and fraud charges and was sentenced to 18 months in federal prison. Miles, despite his cooperation agreement, got 3 years. The Save the Arts Foundation's victims were reimbursed from the money the police recovered, plus the proceeds from the sale of Miles's assets. Cass lost her job when her employer discovered her involvement in the conspiracy. David Chen won a civil judgment against both Lana and Miles for the damage to his gallery and his reputation. As for me, I went back to work. Back to saving lives, running emergency calls, and doing the job I'd always been good at. The difference was that now I knew the difference between people worth saving and people who were determined to destroy themselves. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday. I signed the papers in my lawyer's office, feeling lighter than I had in years. That evening, I was having dinner at a small restaurant near the hospital when a woman approached my table. She was in her 30s, attractive, with the kind of genuine smile that Lana had never quite managed. "Excuse me," she said. "Aren't you the paramedic who exposed that charity scam?" "Guilty." "I just wanted to thank you. I was planning to donate to that foundation. You saved me from losing a lot of money. Just doing my job. Well, your job saved more than money. It saved people's faith in real charities." She smiled again and returned to her table. I watched her go, thinking about second chances and new beginnings. My phone buzzed with a text from Reggie. "Drinks after shift tomorrow? I want to hear about your plans for the rest of your life." I typed back, "Can't wait to find out what they are." For the first time in months, I was telling the truth.